Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Demos with Angular Live. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking a bunch of Angular applications and we're going to be updating them to the latest version of Angular, so the latest RC. We're going to go through the process really live and raw here, so we're going to experience bugs, we're going to experience problems that I've never seen before, and we'll have to get through them. Basically what I'm going to do is I've got a list of repositories that I've maintained or touched in some way, and for each one we're going to load it up. We're going to make sure that the application works kind of as is, as a baseline, because if it doesn't work as is, I totally want to skip it. Then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and update the application, make sure it works, do a little bit of manual testing, and then either redeploy or send a PR so that that application is just ready to go. So where are we going to start here? So let's jump into the terminal. I have a quick post-production note for you. When I was doing this live, I thought I was doing the easiest project first, but it ended up being that the first project I did had a whole bunch of major version updates, and so it is actually the longest, slowest update. So if you don't want to watch the long, slow update process, feel free to skip ahead to one of the later videos. All of them went faster and faster and faster after I got past the troublesome first update. All right, now back to the show. What I've got here is a whole bunch of projects. I'm going to start with very simple projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of the simplest applications I have, which is a Angular Fidget Spinner. Now, I've blown away all of my node modules files from all of my folders, so we're going to be rerunning basically as if I just checked them out from Git. All right, problem number one, we're running an older version of NVM. Let's use 12 here. All right, now we should be able to yarn. We should be able to get the latest version. Wow, we are off to a stellar start here, of course, with yarn just being very upset. UPath wants a version between 4 and 9. That's a little bit weird. Let's make sure that we're on the latest version of yarn to make sure that that's not the problem here. I was thinking about trying a yarn version manager, which is a new way of doing yarn, where it automatically selects the version of yarn, but I'm not quite ready to do that on this computer yet. So let's just update to the latest version of yarn and make sure that this is working. All right, so far so good. That looks much better. Hopefully after we do this a few times, the yarn installs will go faster because we'll have all the packages downloaded and cached already. We are still getting an incompatible node version, which is a little bit unexpected. Let's check out our package.json here. Wow, this is a really, really old Angular application. I now understand why we're having problems. So let's nvm use 8. And let's try yarn. All right, so it looks like some of the Angular applications are not up to date, which is something that's going to happen in real life, right? When you're maintaining Angular applications, occasionally they get out of date. Now, there's actually two paths with an application this old that we could take. One path would be to just go ahead and do the update from whatever version we have now to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Or we could go ahead and actually blow this entire project away and move over the components. With a application that's this old, ng version, with a Angular application that's stuck on version 5 here, I'm probably going to just blow it away and create a new version because a lot of the best practices have been updated over time. So let's just go ahead and do one last thing to make sure that we are going to be able to do this. So yes, this is Angular application on version 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back a folder. I'm going to say ng new fidget spinner new. Just make sure our global is correct. Let's use the @next version to new fidget spinner new. So what this is going to do is this is going to go use the v9-rc of the Angular CLI, and we're going to create a brand new package. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're just going to copy in the components because this is a very, very simple application, not tons of complexity. I don't even think we need the router. Let's go ahead and use Sass just in case we want to use Sass in the future. And what we'll do is we'll just migrate the components. All right, so as soon as this is done, we can start opening Visual Studio Code. And we'll open Fidget Spinner new and Fidget Spinner old. I've never actually tried with the star syntax here, so yep, it actually did work just fine. So I'm going to take Fidget Spinner, I'm going to take the source app component here, which is where I think all the logic is, and the app component.html. Those should just work perfectly if we just drag and drop them into our new project. Source app. And let's do the exact same thing here in our app component HTML. And assuming this finished successfully, we should be able to serve this out and actually see if it worked. So I'm going to open a browser window here and point it at localhost 4200. And it is not working because we also need the asset, the actual image itself. So source assets, spinner. Okay, so the spinner is there, and we probably need to serve again so that we get the new assets from ng-serve. And there we go. Now we have a fidget spinner in Angular. So this was a relatively old app, and so if we go to fidget.fluent.io, we should see the very, very old version. And one of the things I want to actually do is I want to enable this in incognito windows. So I'm going to say allow in incognito. So now we should be able to, yeah, I'm just going to close this and reopen it real quick. One sec. It's a guest window. That's why I can't do extensions. All right. Oh well. If we take a look at fidget.fluent.io, we can just take a look at the source code in the dev tools, and we'll see this is a 5.05 app, and the brand new version is a 900rc0 app. So feels like it works. So we will kill this application. We will copy over some of the source code. We'll copy over the web app manifest because this was also a PWA previously. So let's go ahead and run ng-add at angular/pwa to increase this application's powers into a service worker based app. And it wants me to use version 12 in every terminal I'm using. And while we're doing this, I'm just going to open a new terminal and just say nvm list nvm alias default 12. There we go. So now we should be using node 12 by default. It's just recompiling because we've got the ng-serve going in the background. All right, now we should build ng-serve, which will skip the PWA, but if we look in the source code, we should be able to see both the web app manifest and the ngsw config, so everything should be set to go there. And if our app still works, still loads, we should be good to go. Let's just take one last look at our template to make sure we didn't miss any other files. Start, move, end. Start, move, end. Now what we're going to do is a little trick where I'm just going to move over the Git folder. Perfect. So now we should just see a perfectly changed project. So this takes everything that we just did to our project and switches it over. Oh, it looks like there was a remote change that we actually completely ignored. So let's just Make sure we didn't lose anything too bad. Oh, it looks like we had already bumped to 6 and 7 in another project. And we just forgot to get pull. So this is the step 1 that I was talking about. Make sure that you're actually up to date with the latest version. So what we're going to need to do now is we're going to need to go back to our Fidget Spinner app. And we're going to need to rebase on Origin Master. All right. Now what I can do is I can say get rebase always except mine. I'm just pulling up a guide. So apparently what you can do is you can just get status, get checkout, -- hours. Let's check those out. And let's get checkout -- hours. And we're probably going to have to do this 3 times, 1 for each commit. Okay, so now we should have a very nice history here. So if we get diff to head, just the latest commit, we're going to see we just have the changes that we made here. Oh, we could probably copy over the Firebase project as well. So let's do that. So let's move Fidget Spinner. And let's actually do an ng build. Any other files I might be missing? Firebase. I think we should be good. Whoops. No such file. Interesting. Let's actually step through this bit by bit here. So let's just code this one, because we don't need to be doing the comparison. And I think what happened was that when I rebased, we got some conflicting changes. So let's undo that last commit. And let's see. Apparently we need the Firebase RC file. Should bring that one back. All of these files should be just fine. Conflicting. So let's go to the one important one, which is the angular.json file. Because the specific error we were getting was that tsconfig.app.json didn't exist. And that's a little bit weird because it should just be tsconfig.app.json in the root. One of the things I want to check right now is to see whether or not that is a problem that's specific to the rebase that I did. Because pretty much everything in the AngularJSON should be exactly the same. Okay, so it should be in /source/tsconfig. So I'm a little bit surprised that these are different at all, because I think there's basically nothing that we've configured except for project name. So let's just go ahead and change everything between our project. Back. And let's even get rid of this. Double check that it works. All right, we may have totally ruined this project by rebasing on the latest commit. Yes, I would call this a failed rebase. So what do we do from here? Let's go ahead and basically let's try it the other way. Fidget Spinner. We're going to try this one more time. We now see the danger of trying to do any of these changes live. This should have actually been the simplest application. The biggest problem is that we tried updating a version 5 application all the way up to version 9, which the update guide explicitly tells us not to do. All right, so what we're going to do first is we are going to move over the Git folder. So let's start with the rebase so that we have a clean slate to work from. So let's copy -r. It's a little bit weird. Why do we have a Fidget Spinner folder in here? Ah, we just have to rename that file. Got it. We already had a Git folder. All right, we're up to date with master. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do all those same steps that we did before. Let's just do Fidget Spinner star to bring up all those projects. All right, so we need the asset, as we talked about. So we're going to add the spinner. We are going to need the app component and the app component's HTML. All right, let's go back to testing to make sure everything works. And if you recall, we're also going to need the Firebase files, so let's just copy those over. And I think we moved them, so we're going to have to copy them from the new project. Firebase JSON, .firebase-rc should be there. Our serve is working. And let's just double check. Cannot get blank. Make sure we're on the latest version of Yarn. So the problem here is I did not use the latest version of the CLI. I used the v9 one that I had installed globally. So this is only a problem that you'd ever experience if you were trying things out earlier in the betas. Okay, looks like I'm not sure why we have the wrong version of TypeScript. That is definitely going to be a big problem for us. So let's just go ahead and double check that. And while we're doing that, let's just look in our package.json. So the fact that our package.json includes the wrong thing is scaring me a little bit. We might have been updating the wrong project, which would be highly embarrassing. So everything seems to be installed correctly, except our TypeScript dependency is out of date. So let's just run that ngserve again and figure out what that problem is and fix it. So we need version 3.6. So let's yarn add TypeScript at 3.6. Oh, we wanted it as a dev dependency. So it looks like we did not copy over the app component correctly. Let's just do that one more time here. It's the simplest app component ever created, so copying it over shouldn't be an issue. All right, we are back, and let's double check. We're on 900rc, everything works. Let's do a build, and then let's just do a deploy. And did we add service worker again? Let's undo our last commit, and let's just okay, we should be 2 commits ahead. One should be the rebase to v9 and then update with real functionality. Perfect. And now it's ng add at angular/pwa. Perfect, perfect, perfect. finished. All right, so now when we do an ng build-prod, we should get both the service worker and the version 9 application, and then we can do an ng deploy, and this project's done. So assuming this is successful, we have now taken a Angular version 5 application and bumped it up 4 versions up to version 9. Perfect. Now we're going to do a Firebase deploy. Hopefully the connection is still there and I'm still logged into Firebase. If not, that's fine. We can fix that too. All right, so that should all be done. And as soon as the cache gets flushed, which could take a little bit of extra time just because of the service worker here, we should now get, oh, I know one other change that we need to make here. We changed how we actually configured our Firebase project. So instead of it just being the dist folder, ng build puts it into dist/fidget spinner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the AngularJSON file and change that. And this is not the right AngularJSON whatsoever. Let's just close that project before we keep making changes. Okay, so instead of rebuilding, I'm just going to move the folder. I found 24 files, which is the same amount it found before, which is a little surprising. And there we go. Our application is now up to date, and we should be good to go. So let's just make sure that we're good on the GitHub side of the universe. Let's just fix this. And now let's go ahead and squash those last few commits. So we should be able to now create a PR. So we've updated production and we now should have a PR here. So let's just take a quick peek here. Actually, we should be able to create a PR. So I'm going to use my main browser here with all the permissions, create and compare. We can take a look at all the changes we actually made to our project. And the things I want to verify are that we actually copied over our app component correctly, because I'm worried that it's a little bit different. You know what I think maybe we did not do? I'm worried that we didn't copy over the CSS. Nope, we did not copy over the CSS. So let's fix that. Test one more time. Oh my god, that works so much better. Yeah, the functionality works, the spinner works. That CSS was very, very necessary for the functioning of this application. So while that build is going on, I can undo that last commit. Oops. We'll add that into the index. commit it, force push to the upstream branch, Firebase deploy, and then we should be able to see that this commit is out of date. Refresh. Great. Merging it in. Perfect, now we can delete the branch. All right, so we now have all of our commits, rebasing to v9 as a single clean commit, and we should be good to go with that project. Just do one final check, make sure Fidget Fluent IO actually succeeded. There we go. Fidget Fluent IO works and it's on RC9. Source controls clean, fresh deployment, wonderful. All right, next up. The next app is called Babylog. So let's go ahead and yarn here, and let's take a look at what version and make sure we're up to date with the source control repository. Try not to make the same mistakes we made last time. While that's going, I'm also just going to clean up our junk projects. Perfect. Okay, so let's take a look at this application and see what version of Angular it's actually on. We are on 8.0.0 so clearly we were doing some debugging early. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to mg update. Actually, let's get status. Apparently we have some unfinished changes here. Let's make sure there's not a more recent version in the repository. There are. What is the change that I made? So I switched to Firebase / I tried installing Firebase Performance. So let's just get stashed all those changes. Probably don't care about those. Get pull ff only. We were not on the latest version. So let's double check what we've got here. This shouldn't really change the update process that we follow at all, but let's not have the same mistakes we made in the last project. So what this is a log of what happens with my baby. So I'll show it to you in a sec. gRPC has failed. That is always a fun error to debug. Let's see if a fresh install is able to fix this. And let's double check what version of Node we're on. Node is one of the buggiest pieces of software that I use on a day-to-day basis, and whenever it has to do local compilation, this is one of the biggest challenges that I face. Because normally when you just run yarn, you get perfectly synchronized projects that work amazingly, just not with yarn and Node. All right, these are being treated as errors. So I'm thinking that Firebase is pulling in a version of gRPC that's out of date. So what we're going to do is we're going to update Angular Fire, and let's just, while we're doing this, update everything to the latest version using ng update. So we're trying to get past this error of gRPC failing to compile by updating to the latest version of Firebase and Angular Fire and all those sorts of things. Because my hope is that this is just a bug in gRPC that's going to go away as soon as we update our dependencies on it. Okay, now we're back at the gRPC installation step. We'll see if this actually, hey, it succeeded this time. All right. We should have a bunch of changes to our package.json and our yarn lock. Perfect. Git commit -am. And let's just do a tiny little test before we do this, before we commit our changes to the latest version of 8. There we go. This app seems to be working. It's on 8.2.13. Let's go ahead and commit that. All right, now we're going to do the Angular update. So we're going to do ng update at angular/core at angular/cli -- next. We see we're going from the latest version of 8 on everything up to the latest version that ships with version 9. It's executing all the necessary migrations to make everything work perfectly, which on an app this simple shouldn't be much. And we can actually, while this is running, we can open a terminal if we want to see what's going on under the hood. Migration succeeded, so momentarily we should see all of the changes that happen in the repository. So one of the interesting things that I'm still not sure if I like it or not is that it makes commits for you every time it makes a change. And so I'm personally a little bit conflicted about this. I know there's a bunch of debates in the community about whether or not this is a good thing, that it's doing commits for you at each step. It makes it easier to step through, maybe. So what we could do is, for example, we could say git diff head 1 to look 1 commit back, git diff head 2 to look 2 commits back, head 3 to look 3 commits back. It's a mixed bag, but let's just take a look and see ngserve that actually work. Now, my understanding is that ng update actually now has a skip commits. Yeah, so I'm going to be using -c in the future. -C. All right, our app seems to work just fine. Let's go ahead and log in and just do a little bit of testing. Because we're in an incognito window, this is not going to work, which is just fine. Let's jump over to a real browser again. We use my real authentication. And so we can see here is an update on how our baby's doing. So that all seems to work perfectly. Check the console, don't see any errors. Wonderful. So because those commits were actually made for me, we should just be able to do an ng build -- prod and a Firebase deploy of this application. So unlike the last app, which took half an hour because we went across 4 different Angular versions, this update took less than 10 minutes, I think, which was pretty good. Next up in this sequence is an app that I have called Bingo, which is actually a family tradition for us, where every year we play bingo as a family. Everyone brings like little $1 prizes, and we play bingo, and everyone that wins gets prizes, and then you can steal and you can trade and all those sorts of things, which is kind of fun. Yep, so as you can see, this project is configured to build a dist baby log, which Firebase is already configured to handle. So let's take a look and see if that actually works now. And it did. Perfect. So we are live with the latest version. This project is done. Let's push our commits and move on to the next one. I could be checking out a PR and whatnot, but I don't think I need to in this one. All right, so let's clear this out. Delete this one, close the extra browser tab. Now I'm going to pull up my Bingo project. Again, we're going to start with git pull. I don't know why I would have files on disk that are out of date. That's actually really surprising to me. So I'm going to go to GitHub and check this out. Yeah, for some reason we're just missing those files. We never committed them. That's very alarming. Because I've been using this application for a couple of years now. All right, so let's see what version of Angular you're on. I expect we're a couple versions behind. Oh, we gotta run yarn. It can't actually check your yarn or your node modules folder to see what version of Angular you're on unless you've installed those node modules folders. And while this is going, let's go ahead and open a Visual Studio Code. And we can just look in the package.json is the other way to find out. Oh, another fun application on Angular 5. So I'm actually doing something different. I'm going to try and go one by one up to the latest version just to try that path. Because we've already seen the path of updating a version 5 application just by blowing it away and creating a new set of files. We're probably going to have to drop back to an earlier version of Node to get this all to work, but that should be fine. Hopefully we don't have any local compilation problems like with Node SAS, which is always a possibility. I'm just going to get the command ready. If we are on version 5, let's bump to the latest version of version 5. And then we'll go from there. Oh, Node SAS failed. All right, let's see if we can just roll forward past this. It looks like we will not be able to. Let's see if we can do an NPM style version number. Do we not have an Angular JSON? Okay. So Angular versions before 6 we actually had an Angular CLI file. So whenever you see this, this is probably going to be easier just to blow away the files and just start over again. So let's do what we did before. So move bingo to bingo.old. And we're going to use npx at Angular CLI at next, new bingo. So this should check out the Angular CLI at next, which should be the latest RC. We don't need routing. Let's use SAS again. And let's make sure we actually copy over all of our files this time. So everything's going to be in source / assets is probably the most important files. Perfect, those all came over just fine. And now let's copy over Now, I think that was all the changes we made, so let's also copy over the Firebase file. And let's move our .git to here. So we should be able to see a git status and see all of the changes that we just made, intentionally or unintentionally. So we swapped out the Angular CLI, editor config, good. Removed the protractor, updated And we need to add get. Let's just take get old out of the path. Just momentarily. We've got our app config. And all these should be using the latest version of Angular. We had no styles, so that should be fine. Did we need our environments file? I don't think so. No, we did not need that. We did need to provide the sound module, so let's do that. And let's go ahead and fix that path with the missing hyphen, or this missing single quote. Anything else that we might have messed up here? I don't think so. Let's give it an ngserve and see. And to experience the full fun, I'm going to turn on the audio from the computer. Oh, can't find that file. Let's just take a look at it. App sound service. It should be right, I think. Let's try that one more time, see what's going on here. So there's a little bit of a weird error up here where main.ts is missing from the TypeScript compilation. That we haven't touched the TypeScript configuration at all. I bet we are in the wrong folder. Let's just double check that. Nope, we're in the right folder. We cannot find module app sound service. That is a very weird error. We just need to fix this one. There we go. So apparently the TypeScript resolution of paths in the new version is different than the old version. All right, and let's take a look in our guest window here. Make sure localhost 4200 is working. Everything's working perfectly. So you probably can't hear it because I see the audio is not coming through, but every time you click on a number, it's actually playing the audio, which is kind of cool. All right, so I think this app's done. Let's just double check the version. Good, perfect. Let's see if an ng build -- prod works. And then let's deploy it. Firebase deploy. Again, we might have a mismatch in how Firebase was configured previously and how Firebase is configured now. And we can check that by taking a look at the Firebase JSON file. Yeah, so it's expected to be in just //dist. So I'm going to change my angular.json file to just deploy to dist. No, that should be dist. All right, now let's go to bingo. let's see if we're up to date here. And we are. All the audio is coming through just fine. Let's see if I can fix this audio issue just real quick. I think it's so much fun to be able to hear monitor built in. Oh, here it is.
I-22.
There you go.
I-29. I-37. O-71. G-60.
Perfect. We used to have a physical box that did this for the whole family, but we replaced the box with an app because the box was getting older and older and harder to hear and harder to hear. This just works on an iPhone or an Android phone, anything like that. All right, so let's just make sure that we have committed all of our changes here. Push those up so that our GitHub matches our deployed version, and then on to the next version, or on to the next application. The next application is an app that I built kind of as a joke. I might not even have it checked out here. So let's go ahead and check it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on github.com, Stephen Fluin, and look for Minesweeper. Angular Minesweeper, here we go. This one is not hosted on Firebase, it's hosted on GitHub Pages, which is kind of cool. So I think if we set this up properly, we should be able to just do a deployment, and then we should rely on either ng-deploy to do it or on our CI. I'm not sure how we set this up. I'm just getting the SSH key copy. All right, so now let's go git clone the Minesweeper app. Let's run yarn to install the packages. And this time, because we cloned it, we know we're on the latest version from Git, which is a very good thing. We won't make the same mistakes 3 times. Now we should be able to ng version, take a look what we've got. This is a very simple Angular version 8 application. So we're going to ng update at angular/core, at angular/CLI due to the latest version. And we'll ng serve this as soon as that's done to make sure it's working. All right, I just want to take a look, see how we're doing the deployments. So it's either going to be in a Travis CI file, which I don't see, or it will probably be a deployment configuration step. No, it is not, which is a little bit surprising. Interesting. I'm not sure how I did deployment of this. I know I posted a video about this. I'll have to go double check, see what I did there. Here we have Minesweeper on the latest version 8. Everything seems to be working perfectly. You lose. All right, so let's go ahead and bump it up. And now let's do ng update at angular core at angular CLI --next -c. Because we want to skip those extra commits that we were seeing last time. And we just want to be able to walk through everything ourselves. Package.json looks good to me. And as we go here, we can see the changes it's making. So it switches over to AOT by default. It's updated the package.json, the yarn log file. And that really should be it. This isn't a very complex application. This is another one of those single component apps that I've talked about. All right, we'll probably need to re-ng serve. Environment.prod.ts is part of the TypeScript compilation, but it's unused. That is actually true. We don't use those files. So if we refresh here, we're on 900. I should be able to lose. Perfect. And our app works just fine. So let's go ahead and do a build. And let's commit these changes. Since we already pushed, we should be good there. And then we just need to deploy. So as I said, I don't remember how to deploy this application, which is a little bit weird. So one of the ways that you can deploy is with a tool called GHPages deploy. Angular CLI GHPages. So let's go ahead and do this then. Because I want to just be able to run ng deploy in the future. I don't want that whole command. I want this. Thanks, npm. Angular CLI GHPages. Yep. Hopefully we got that right. And actually, I installed that via yarn, which is wrong. I want to ng add. Because I want it to install itself into my my Angular JSON as a deployment command. So this will not only do the yarn install, but it will also configure my project. So now when we look at our Angular JSON file, we should see a brand new deployment command at the bottom. Deploy. Yep, there it is. And if you take a look at their documentation, which I highly recommend you do, one of the things you have to do is you have to understand where it's actually being served from. So if we take a look at the page in the README that I wrote, it's being served from the Angular Minesweeper subfolder. And so according to the documentation, what you need to do is you need to say ng deploy with a -- base href. Because otherwise what happens is your Angular application is configured assuming it's going to be at the root, and then any of the root relative URLs aren't going to work. So that could be a link, that could be images, anything like that. But what this does is it sets it up to say, hey, my Angular app's going to be hosted out of a subfolder, and everything should just work. So it's doing the build, and then what it should do is on our GHPages branch, it should actually do a commit. So if we look at our repository here again, and we go to the GHPages branch, yep, auto-generated commit now. And so let's take a look back at our README, use that link, and analyze the source code. There we are, 900. And we have a working Minesweeper app that it is very easy to win, very easy to lose. All right, we're running out of the time that I wanted to spend tonight, so we're just going to do one more application, and this application is going to be a little bit more complex than the last few. What we're going to do is we're going to bump up a project that's not actually my project. It's a project that I've been sharing with a few friends called DevFest MN. So this is a public website for a conference that happens every year. As you can see, they ran a ML and AI DevFest. They typically, in the spring, they run a bunch of other events. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take this existing application off GitHub and try and bump it up to version 9 from where it is on version 8.2.1. So we should be here, but I know I'm out of date. So we're going to go ahead and check out master. We're going to pull down all of the latest changes to the project. collaborating with others, so we're going to do this cleanly via PR. Make sure. Okay, so we should be all up to date. So I'm going to ng update at angular/core at angular/cli. Put us in the latest version of 8. And then we'll double check. We'll do an ng serve, make sure everything's working. So our SSFFB is out of date. That's actually a project I maintain, so I probably should go update that. But we're not going to have time to go chase down every little package. If there's any interest in this, I can do a follow-up. One thing you're going to notice is our Firebase is going to be out of date here, which might cause us some problems. So as soon as this finishes, we should be able to ng serve. All right, that looks like that was successful. So let's go ahead and ng serve and make sure the application still works. This application is one that's actually split into a bunch of modules, as you're supposed to do as you build a larger and larger Angular application. And there we go. You can see we've got lots and lots of modules here. The app looks like it's loading. Do a little spot check of the functionality. Great. Everything seems to be working perfectly, even animations. Now, the tough part, let's actually commit this. Make sure we don't typo the update. All right, now we're going to ng update Angular core at angular/cli. We're going to skip commits again. Peer dependency warnings, that's fine. Because these are all Angular dependency warnings, I'm going to just update Angular material and Angular CDK at the same time. And did we lose our -- force? Let's try that one more time with -- next, -c, and -- force. So we can watch the changes to our Angular application coming in kind of slowly here. All right, it says the migration was successful. Let's ng serve and see if it really was successful. I'm actually going to be very shocked if this just works as a drop-in replacement, because this is a large, complex project with module with providers, all sorts of Angular things where we're using a lot of the feature set of Angular. Well, compiled successfully. That's a really good first sign. Let's go home. Let's refresh. We are on 900RC. And a spot check of the functionality says it works. So, surprisingly, this was just a drop-in replacement of 800. Those auto migrations handled every change that I needed to make to the app for it to actually work in production. So, let's commit this up and send our PR. There we go. And let's go ahead and pull up the PR here. And that should be done. So thank you to all the auto migrators. So surprisingly, the largest project we had was actually the fastest to update. I think I'm going to end the video here. One other thing we could be taking a look at, beyond just other projects that I have on disk, would be taking a look at bundle sizes to see how did our bundle sizes change with Ivy, without Ivy, maybe even leaving everything on version 9RC and just checking those. If there's interest, let me know and I'll do that in another video. Otherwise, let me know what you thought about this video, about the process of updating to version 9. Any feedback is welcome. And if you made it this far, thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.